In this video, we're going to go through Learning Target 224, which is writing equations for parallel, perpendicular, coinciding, and intersecting lines. So if you have your packet, this is on page 32. If you don't, you can just follow along in a notebook. So the first thing that we need to do is talk about what each of these types of lines are and what their important characteristics are. And so we're going to draw a sketch of each one and then write their important characteristics. Parallel lines never touch. So we have lines like this, where they just go up at the same rate or down at the same rate, and they do not touch each other. They don't cross at all, and they extend on forever. And so parallel lines, the characteristics that we want to include is that parallel lines have the same slope, which makes sense because they are either increasing at the same rate or decreasing at the same rate. And then a different y-intercept. So they need to have the same slope, but a different y-intercept. The second type of lines are perpendicular. And so perpendicular lines cross at a 90-degree angle. And sometimes we use that little box right there to show that that's in fact a 90-degree angle. And in order to do that, they have to have slopes that make it so that you can cross each other. And so one thing is that one of them needs to be increasing and one of them needs to be decreasing. So one thing we need to have is we need to have opposite slopes. And opposite means that one is positive and one is negative. And the second thing they need is they need to be increasing or decreasing at like the reciprocal slope, so that one is steep and one is not steep. And so they are going to have opposite reciprocal. Reciprocal is just a fancy way to say flipped slopes. And so we need to have opposite reciprocal slopes. And then our y-intercept doesn't matter. They could have the same y-intercept or a different y-intercept. It actually does not matter. For coinciding lines, the picture is a little bit tricky because coinciding lines are the same line. When you graph them, they lie right on top of each other. So there's like one line and then there's another line right on top of it. So I just drew two sets of arrows, but basically they're just two lines right on top of each other. And in order to do that, they have to have the same everything. They're the exact same line. So they have the same slope and the same y-intercept. It's the exact same line. So they need to have everything exactly the same. This one ends up being really easy because if we say write a line that's coinciding, you just write the exact same line. And then intersecting. It's kind of like parallel, except it's not at a 90-degree angle. I guess like all perpendicular lines are intersecting, but not all intersecting lines are perpendicular. So everything that's perpendicular does cross. This is just any two lines that cross in any way. So you can see like this is not a 90-degree angle, but they do cross. And that just means that this one cannot follow requirements for parallel lines, because coinciding lines technically intersect as well. A lot of times they'll ask you like, give us a line that's intersecting but not perpendicular. So then it could not be parallel, so this can't be true and this can't be true. So you just have to be really careful about what it's asking. If you need to pause the video to make sure you have all that written down, make sure you do that, but then we're going to go through some practice problems. So we have a few practice problems, and the first one says, which of the following lines are perpendicular to this? And so perpendicular, we said, have opposite reciprocal slopes. And so what I want to look at is I want to look at the slope. So slope is our m, and I want to make this the opposite and the reciprocal. So if this one is negative, then I know I want to make mine positive. So now it's the opposite. I also want to make it the reciprocal. And so the reciprocal is meaning flipped. Well, 3 is not quite a fraction, and so 3 is 3 over 1. And so to flip it, I would make it 1 over 3. So reciprocal just means take it and flip it upside down. So we have to make sure we have both things, that this one's negative and this one's positive. This one's 3 and this one's the reciprocal, which is 1/3. So now I want to look at my options and I want to see which one has a positive 1/3 as the slope, and that is answer option D. You could also just kind of use process of elimination and cross out, like -3 wouldn't work because that's the same, 3 wouldn't work because it's only the opposite, and then -1/3 wouldn't work because it's only the reciprocal. So you can kind of do process of elimination as well. The second one, circle all lines that are parallel to this line. Well, parallel means that it has the same slope but a different y-intercept. So I'm looking for 1/5 to be the same, but it cannot be -12. So I'm going to go ahead and cross out anything that does not have 1/5. I left this decimal because I'm not quite sure what 1/5 is as a decimal, so I'm going to make sure I check that before I decide, because the decimal and the fraction are the exact same thing. So 1/5 as a decimal, 1/5 as a decimal is 0.2. And so this does mean 1/5. And then I want to make sure that it does not have -12. So this one is good. 1/5 matches, does not have -12. This one's good. 0.2 is the same as 1/5, but this is not -12. This one is not, because this is the exact same equation, and the exact same equation is coinciding, not parallel. Number 3, which of the following is not intersecting? So the only lines that do not intersect are parallel lines. So you have to know that if it does not intersect, it means it's parallel. It's the only type of line that doesn't cross. So again, parallel means same M, different B. And so looking at our equations, our answer options, we have same M, different B is only answer option A. And last one, write your own lines for each of the types for this equation. So I like to go in the same order every time, of easiest to hardest. I like to start with coinciding. Coinciding is the exact same line. So I'm just going to write the exact same thing. Then I'm going to go to parallel. Parallel is the same M but a different B. So I'm going to have the same M, but then I just can't do plus 10. So I'm going to do plus 3. You could do anything. Then I'm going to do intersecting, because intersecting can be anything that's not these. So I think what's easiest to do is just to change everything. Change M, change B, make sure you don't do any of like the patterns from the other lines. So an intersecting line could be like y equals 3x minus 1. That will intersect with that, but not in any special way like perpendicular or anything. And last one, perpendicular. We have opposite reciprocal slopes. So opposite means I need to have it positive instead of negative. Reciprocal means flip it. So I have 4/5 x, and then I can have the same M or same B or a different B, and I'm just going to make it different, and that's it. So you do have to like memorize these patterns. I would recommend flashcards are really nice so that you can memorize the type of line with what you need to know about the equation. So you can go ahead and do the independent practice on the next page, and then if you need the extra help video, it is there as well.